I know this is a little bit after the fact, but this past Shabbos was Shabbos Chazoin, which is named after the after the Haftarah. Chazoin Yeshayahu ben Amoitz, the vision of Yeshaya, and it's not a great vision. It's the vision of destruction. It's the vision of the fact that the Jewish people had turned their backs on Hashem, and therefore Hashem was going to turn his back, and there would be the loss of the temple. So we read this Haftarah obviously just before Tisha B'Av. However, there's a famous teaching of Reb Lev Yitzchak of Berditchev, where he says that Chazoin, vision, has a positive spin as well. And the positive spin that he speaks about is that on the Shabbos prior to Tisha B'Av, following the principle which says Hashem is makdim refuah l'makah, that Hashem always gives us the healing before the disease. So the Shabbos before Tisha B'Av, Hashem gives us a glimpse, a vision into the Beis Hamikdash. So you kind of get to see the next Beis Hamikdash. And he says it's similar to the metaphor of a child. His father buys him a beautiful suit for Shabbos, but like any good child, he doesn't look after it. And the suit gets ruined. So then he comes crying to his father and he says, my suit is ruined. The father says, okay, I'll buy you another suit. But this time you have to promise that you're going to look after it. Oh, I promise, absolutely, I'm going to look after the suit. And then what happens, as you well know, he ruins the suit again. Comes crying to the father, please buy me a new suit. So the father says to him, of course I'll buy you a new suit. The only thing is that this time I need to know that you've grown enough to look after the things that I give you. So this new suit I'm going to keep in the cupboard. And then when you prove that you know how to look after your things, then you'll get that new suit. And every once in a while he brings out the suit for the child to see, to just inspire him, that he should behave well, because this is what he's going to get. So the Rebbe Yitzchak Berditchev says Hashem does a similar thing to us. We didn't look after the first temple, so we lost it. We didn't look after the second temple, so we lost it. So the third temple he's keeping on ice until we've proven that we are in a position that we'll look after it properly. And once a year, on Shabbos Chazoin, the Shabbos before Tisha B'Av, we get a little bit of a glimpse, so we can actually see what we're supposed to be getting. Now there's a very obvious question, right? The obvious question is, have you seen it? What kind of a vision did you have over Shabbos? I don't know. Maybe some people dream about the Beis Hamikdash. I don't know. But the average person does not actually see the Beis Hamikdash. So it's all very nice in theory to say that there's this vision and that you're shown a vision of the Beis Hamikdash. But you don't have to actually see it. It kind of defeats the purpose, seeing as the whole purpose was to inspire us that we should behave in a particular way because we're going to see the Beis Hamikdash. So the answer that's typically given is, no, you don't see the Beis Hamikdash, but your neshama sees the Beis Hamikdash. So, okay, can't prove that, I suppose. It's a good answer, because nobody can challenge it. But let's assume that my neshama sees this future Beis Hamikdash. If I don't consciously see it, what does it help if my neshama sees it? Like, what's the point? So this speaks to another concept that the Mishnah tells us in Pirkei Avos, where the Mishnah says that every single day a bas kol, which means a heavenly voice, radiates from Har Chorev. Har Chorev is a synonym, it's another name for Mount Sinai. And this heavenly voice announces every single day, woe to those who have ignored the Torah, who disgrace the Torah by their inaction. So then we ask the same question. Have you ever heard the voice? You know what happens when you start to hear voices in your head? It's not always a promising sign. So the average person never hears this voice. So what's the point of having an announcement every single day from Mount Sinai that supposedly is meant to arouse some feelings of guilt or commitment to the Torah if nobody's ever going to hear it? The same question. So we have in order to understand and to appreciate this, we have a reference in the book of Daniel that will help us to understand it. The book of Daniel tells us that there was a particular occasion and Daniel was standing with some of his colleagues and he had an experience. And the experience was that the angel Gabriel, who typically used to communicate with him, appeared in front of him and gave him a message. And it's a very overwhelming experience to be exposed to an angel. So the Tanakh tells us that Daniel saw the vision of the angel and he interacted with the angel, and all the others who were with him were unable to see the vision. Yet in spite of the fact that they couldn't see the vision, they all began to tremble uncontrollably. So the Gemara asks a question: if they didn't see anything, why were they trembling? The whole point is that it's overwhelming to witness an angel. So that makes sense that if a person is there and physically sees the angel, it makes sense that they should shake. But if, as the Tanakh tells us, the others did not see the angel, so why on earth are they shaking? So the Gemara tells us, Afal gav di'ihu lo yichazi, mazla yuchazi. That even though they did not physically with their own eyes see the angel, their mazal saw the angel. What does it mean their mazal saw the angel? Most people don't associate a mazal with something that you can see. Usually you associate mazal with your fortune. Maybe you associate a mazal with your astrological sign, there's the zodiac. Those are the things that are usually associated with a mazal. What's the connection over here? So Chassidus explains that we are multi-dimensional creatures, and simultaneously we key in to all kinds of different planes of existence. The most obvious one is the here and now, what you can experience through your five senses. So to us, that's the most obvious, the most compelling part of our experience, and most of how we behave and most of how we respond is to the things that we can process through our five senses. What we don't realize is that our neshama is capable of seeing and experiencing things at a higher level, because the neshama simultaneously, while it lives in the body, also simultaneously lives in higher levels as well. So for example, two examples that we could relate to. The one example is sometimes you'll walk into a place and you'll just get a feeling about the place. It might be a very positive feeling, it might be a negative feeling. You might feel anxious, you don't know what it is, something makes you feel uneasy about the place. And then later you find out that something happened in that place, and there was a bit of history, some kind of a dramatic history. So you think to yourself, how did I know that? How did I intuitively pick that up? That would be an example where the neshama is able to see on a higher plane what the spiritual energy in this particular place is, and it's able to let that trickle down. In fact, the word mazal comes from the word to trickle, so it allows that awareness to trickle down to me in an inexplicable feeling that I have. Another way that you could experience this is sometimes you meet a person and you just feel a connection with the person. You don't know why, you don't know much about them, you haven't really spoken to them yet, you haven't spent time with them, but you just click, you just feel a connection with the person. Similar kind of thing, there's something that your neshama is able to perceive about this person at a higher dimension that is super conscious, beyond what you're aware of, and that trickles down into you with this positive kind of message. So what we call that having a makif experience. And a makif experience means it's intangible, it's abstract, it's compelling because I feel it, and it actually affects my mood, or it affects my sense of optimism, security, or whatever, but it's abstract, it's intangible. I don't know where this is coming from. So that's what we call a mazal experience. When Daniel was standing there with his friends and the angel appeared, even though they, in their five senses, did not have anything with which they could detect the angel, they were unable to see it, to hear it, to feel its presence, but at a high level the neshama is able to pick up those vibrations, and so the neshama trickled a message through to their conscious self to say, there's something over here that is overwhelming and therefore you should be afraid. What's the benefit of that? The benefit is nothing really, unless you respond. So they were completely unaware of what was going on, so they couldn't really respond. They just knew that suddenly they felt uneasy. But when it tells us that every single day there's an announcement from Mount Sinai that says, Nu, most powerful word in Judaism, right? Nu, what's with you? Why are you not committed? Why are you not doing what the Torah says? So even though you and I will never hear that voice, you'll never hear it as a tangible sound, but the fact is, we will, in our own experience, and you'll know this from your experience, we will from time to time feel out of nowhere some kind of a motivation to just push ourselves in our Judaism. Out of nowhere. It's not because I was learning, it's not because I was inspired by something. I just get this feeling maybe I should do something more for my Judaism. Or alternatively, I just get this feeling that I feel bad about some of the things that I'm not doing. Whichever one it is, either it will manifest as motivation or more often it will manifest as guilt. So that does have a benefit, even though I don't understand where it comes from and I can't contextualize it and I can't rationalize it. The fact of the matter is, it's something that's impacting me. And if I grab that opportunity and I say, okay, look, I don't have to understand why I feel this way in order to utilize it. So I'm going to utilize it. I'm going to actually, so to speak, catch a wake up and do something differently because of it. That is incredibly beneficial and valuable. So something which is makif, something which is intangible, we always have the opportunity to make it more tangible, to make it more real to us. Rather than to get caught up in the, I don't understand where this is coming from, to say, okay, it's not a bad thing to be motivated. It's not a bad thing to feel a little bit of guilt and maybe I need to pull up my socks. By the same token, on Shabbos Chazoin, when we're shown at a neshama level, we're shown a vision of the future Beis Hamikdash, it's quite possible that we don't even know that it's happened. It's quite possible. But the idea is that at some level our neshama is feeding information to us, to our conscious self, to say that this is something to look forward to. This is our aspiration. This is our goal. Our goal is to reach a point where Mashiach comes and we're able to experience the third Beis Hamikdash. So whether we pick it up on the Shabbos itself in a tangible way or not, the fact is it's being kind of inserted into our subconscious mind. And it makes us that little bit more aware and that a little bit more dedicated and enthusiastic to have a connection with and to reach out to and to try to manifest the Beis Hamikdash. And that's the benefit that we have. So now in these days between Shabbos Chazoin and Tisha B'Av, this is where we get to make the choice. Are we going to allow this to become something that is tangible in our lives? Are we going to allow whatever happened to our neshama on the course of this past Shabbos, where it was exposed to this great spiritual awareness of a future experience of the Beis Hamikdash, are we going to allow it to become something that we own and experience? That's our question.